In this video, we uncover a crime so chilling it feels like fiction. She planned everything down to the last detail, killed without hesitation, and then calmly went to get a tattoo as if nothing had happened. On March 5th, 2021, Matthew Dunmier, 30, left a pub in the town of Cleveland and got into a white smart car driven by a woman he only called an old friend. He told his friends that he was going to spend the weekend with her, but then he didn't show up. The next day, he didn't come home. He didn't answer any calls, and his phone was found turned off. From this point on, things started to go wrong for two families. Friends and family of Matthew didn't know this woman, where they were going, or why he had kept the meeting a secret. At first, the search was for a lost person, but it quickly turned into a murder case and then into a tragedy that involved people who had nothing to do with the crime. Before we continue, I'd really love to know where you're watching from. Whether it's a big city or a small town, drop your location in the comments below. It's always interesting to see how far these stories reach, and if you're enjoying this deep dive into true crime, make sure to give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you're the first to know when a new case is posted. Now, let's get back into it. Matthew Dunmier was born in Hudson, Ohio, on November 26, 1989. His parents are Tommy and John Dunmier. He grew up in a neighborhood which is a typical American neighborhood. Good schools, clean homes, and a strong sense of safety. He grew up in that peaceful place. Matthew has always been interested in music. His parents helped him. He began playing guitar when he was 6 years old and went on to learn other instruments. When he was a teen, he liked rock music and went to shows with preschool friends. He wasn't very good at schoolwork. He did just enough in high school to pass, but he wasn't really interested in his work. He didn't want to go to college after high school. He stayed in town and got a job as a salesman at a nearby store instead. He met a woman at age 20. Her name isn't given in case files. They moved in together after a year. Soon after, their boy, Caleb, was born, and 2 years after that, their daughter, Adriana, came along. People who knew him say he was a hands-on dad and a family man, even though he had a child young. He kept in touch with friends, had a steady job, and seemed to have a normal life. Chelsea Perkins and Matthew Perkins were both born in the same year and finished high school in 2009. However, they were not classmates. She joined the U.S. Coast Guard after getting her education. She served on a small ship in Texas for a number of years. That's when she met the man she would marry. After that, they got married and had 2 kids before moving to Virginia. Chelsea started making adult material online under the name Selena Savage after she got out of the military. She made an account on OnlyFans and told people about it on Instagram. She made a steady amount of money from this job, about the same as she did in the Coast Guard. All of her posts were made under her stage name, which helped her keep her public image separate from her private life. Both families looked like they were doing well, but neither Matthew's friends nor Chelsea's family knew that the two had ever been in touch. They didn't seem to know each other until 2021. Everything began with what seemed like a friendly text message conversation on social media. There was nothing that made anyone close to them pay attention. No one could have known that this online link would have such terrible results. March 5th, 2021, Friday, Matthew Dunmier went to Tiki Underground after work. It was a bar he often went to with coworkers and longtime friends. It was the same that night. He planned to get together with some friends for drinks, which is how they usually do it. Around 5:30 p.m., they started getting together. They planned to keep it short because everyone was going home for dinner. The people in the group talked about their plans for the weekend. Some said we should take a quick trip outside. Others said they had errands to run or family time. When Matthew's turn came up, he said he couldn't do it. He told them that an old friend from Virginia was in town and that the 3 of them were going to hang out. That made me curious right away. Some people asked him about the woman, how they knew each other, and why he hadn't asked her to join them at the bar. Matthew tried to avoid the questions. He didn't say her name or give any other information. He only said that they would stay at an Airbnb outside of town and walk in the park. The next day, friends of his were feeling a little uncomfortable. A lot of people were shocked that he was going to spend the night with someone they had never heard of since he was in a relationship and living with the mother of his 2 kids. Some people at the table had known him since school and couldn't remember him ever talking about a friend from Virginia. It wasn't like him to act that way. He was always honest about his goals and private life. Matthew got a message on his phone at one point. After reading it, he got up and said his ride was coming soon. He offered to be walked to the parking lot by one of his co-workers, who was also his direct boss. He later said that he was just interested and wanted to see this strange friend. It was already dark by that time. Matthew walked up to a white car that was parked not far from the door. It looked good from the shape. There was a woman with dark hair behind the wheel. Her face wasn't easy to see because of the lights and distance. The boss told Matthew goodbye and then went back inside to tell the others what he had seen. After Matthew left, the group felt strange. Even though the discussion went on, the mood had changed. Some people began to think that there might have been an affair. Some people were just confused by the secret. They had no idea that it would be the last time they saw him. The morning of March 6, 2021 didn't worry people close to Matthew Dunmier right away. He had said ahead of time that he was going to be back home by that evening, so early in the day, no one had to worry. But as the hours went by, Matthew could not be reached. Nobody picked up the calls and his phone was turned off when they were found. Around 8 p.m., his partner started calling his friends to see if anyone had heard from him or knew where he might be. Some said they had seen him at Tiki Underground the night before. They said he left with a woman and a white smart car. They had no idea who she was or where they were going. They had never heard her name before. No one even tried to guess. It made me feel even more uneasy when I realized that. It became clear that Matthew had kept the meeting's details secret on purpose, even from people he had known for a long time. By that time, his partner had tried all possible ways to get in touch. Not an answer. 10:30 p.m. was the time of the last message she got from him. The previous evening, the phone had not been used or called since then. There had been no movement, calls, or texts. It had been more than 24 hours since he left. Matthew didn't usually just disappear without saying anything. That night, March 6th, late at night, Matthew's folks went to the Hudson Police Department. They put in a formal report of a missing person. His mother was sure that he would not have left on his own. She said Matthew wouldn't just leave without talking to his son, daughter, or longtime partner first. The family said this had never happened before. The police paid attention to the report. Even though Matthew was an adult legally, the facts given were scary enough for police to start a preliminary search. As soon as possible, they began looking in nearby hospitals, jails, hotels, and accident records, but there was nothing. Investigators didn't have many tools at their hands because they couldn't get to Matthew's phone data. No one knew where he was going to sleep that night. He didn't say what Airbnb was called or where it was located. It was still unknown who the woman he met was. The only clue they had was that she was driving a white smart car. That wasn't enough to start a bigger search outside the city. There was no way to find Matthew in Hudson or the places around them. He wasn't at any of his friends' houses, at work, or on the list of patients at any of the nearby hospitals. None of the reports of incidents in the area fit what he said. Officers kept asking family members and co-workers to try to find any possible escape routes. Also, at the same time, police asked for video from security cameras near the bar where he was last seen. By late March 6th evening, the case had changed from a short absence to a missing person case. It had been almost 24 hours since anyone had heard from Matthew, and there had been no new calls or texts. The case was given a lot of attention. These were the first signs that this wasn't just a delay or a personal matter for Matthew's family and friends. There is a chance it is something much worse. The Valley View Police Department got a very important call early in the morning on March 9th, 2021. While hiking in Kyhoga Valley National Park, a group of people found the body of a man. It was just a few yards from a hiking trail in a place that was easy to get to, but out of sight from the road because of trees and bushes. The park is on the border of 2 counties and is crossed by several roads, so it can be reached from many directions. Within minutes, police arrived at the scene. Quickly, the area around the body was locked down. The man was wearing dark clothes, a leather jacket, a sweatshirt with a hood, Dark pants, boots, and gloves without fingers. The ground clothes had an Aquafina water bottle that was only half full. He didn't have a phone or ID in his pockets. The person seemed to have died at least 2 days before the preliminary examination. There were no signs of a fight or a body being pulled. Since the position was flat and not moved, it seems likely that the act happened right there. Someone had been shot in the back of the head. The way the bullet went from the top to the bottom made it look like the man was either sitting or standing when it happened, and the shooter was close by. Before the examination could be done, the body was taken to the mortuary. At the same time, police started to look into reports of lost people from all over the area. When police in Hudson heard about the find, they went to the scene to exchange notes. The man was identified by the coroner the next day. Matthew Dunmier, who had been missing for 4 days, was there. Fingerprints and a scar on his arm that matched the one his family had described were used to prove who he was. His family and friends were told about his death. The stated cause of death was a head wound from a gun. The case was changed back to a criminal investigation after this proof. Detectives focused on Matthew's co-worker's statement about the white smart car he was seen getting into on March 5th because it was the only good lead they had at the time. A person who helped him get to the parking lot remembered that the driver was a woman with dark hair. The license plate was fuzzy in his mind, and it was dark outside, so he couldn't get a good look at her face. Footage from around the bar was used as the first part of the probe. A traffic camera near the nearby highway exit had seen a white smart car going towards Hudson at 5:46 p.m., about 15 minutes before Matthew got to the bar. However, the Tiki Underground parking lot did not have any cameras. This proved that the car was going in the right way. At 6:15 p.m., the next important place on the schedule was a petrol station. The same white smart car was seen on security video. Matthew was seen getting out of the car, going into the store, and buying a pack of cigarettes, a bottle of water, and a can of soda. In the end, that Aquafina bottle was found next to his body. This stop let agents make a continuous record of what happened that night. After looking at more data from traffic cams and road sensors, we found that the smart car went north towards Cleveland. With the help of toll records and sensor pings, authorities were able to make a very accurate map of the route. The car pulled up to a place rented through Airbnb on Ashbury Avenue in the eastern part of Cleveland. The property owner was talked to by police who showed him a picture of Matthew. He was sure that Matthew had spent the night there. The people who worked at the house remembered that Matthew had come with a woman with dark hair. Investigators got the ticket information from Airbnb after making a formal request. The ticket was made with the name Chelsea Perkins. A history check showed that Chelsea and Matthew went to the same high school, even though they hadn't talked in years. Matthew's family and friends had never heard of her. He had not told anyone about his plans for the weekend for the first time in years. Now that they knew who she was, the cops started gathering information about Chelsea and where she lives now. Investigators put together a clear timeline using surveillance videos, toll booth records, phone GPS logs, and information from Airbnb registrations. Around 6:30 p.m. on March 5th, they got to the Cleveland rental house on Ashbury Avenue. Chelsea made the reservation for one night at the rental. Staff at the house say that the two showed up in a white smart car and entered the property together. Surveillance footage from nearby proved that the car stayed parked outside the house all night. No one was seen or heard on the land until the morning. At 8:37 a.m. on March 6th, phones for both Chelsea and Matthew started to move. Their GPS showed that they had left Cleveland and were on their way to Kyhoga Valley National Park. At 9:45 a.m., both phones were linked to a cell tower near the southern entrance to the park. This matched the route that had been tracked before by traffic cams. You could walk from that signal point to the place where Matthew's body was later found. GPS showed that the car had stopped in a nearby parking lot, and both phones stayed still for a while after that. Matthew sent his partner one last text at 10:49 a.m. to let her know he would be home later that night. That message was the last thing that his phone did that was recorded. After about 30 minutes, the signal was gone. After that, there were no more calls or texts. Either the phone was turned off or put into airplane mode. Chelsea's device, on the other hand, kept working. The water bottle that was found near Matthew's body had 2 DNA profiles on it, his and Chelsea's. Making this finding was the first solid proof that Chelsea was at the crime scene. Matthew bought the bottle while they were together, and it was later found near where his body was found. This led police to believe that Chelsea was there when Matthew died, or right before he died. More forensic tests, like looking at the pieces of Matthew's fingernails and hair that was found on his clothes, also fit Chelsea Perkins's genetic profile. There was no question after these tests that she was the last person to see him alive. Once the body of Matthew was found, cops kept looking for Chelsea Perkins' car. Records from the toll road show that her white smart car left Ohio around 1 p.m. on March 6th and was going north. The car was seen again for sure near Toledo just before it crossed into Michigan. That night, surveillance tape showed the car pulling into the parking lot of a nearby tattoo shop called Family Inc. Staff at the studio say that a woman with dark hair came in by herself, showed ID with the name Chelsea Perkins on it, and booked a service. She stayed in the shop for a while and got a new tattoo during that time. The workers didn't see any signs of stress or strange behavior. She paid with cash and then left. Later that day, Chelsea shared a picture of herself on Instagram standing in front of a mirror at the tattoo shop. There was a new tattoo in the picture, and the caption said, "What an amazing weekend." The post was made in Michigan as shown by the geolocation data. Nothing was said or shown about what had happened earlier that morning. On March the 7th, security cameras watched Chelsea's car as it drove southeast towards Virginia. She went back to her home in Arlington and went about her normal life. There were no signs that she was trying to hide or felt pressed. Over the next few weeks, she stayed busy on social media sharing normal posts that had nothing to do with what was going on in Ohio. On March 30th, 2021, police got a request to search the home of Chelsea Perkins in Arlington, Virginia. It had been more than 3 weeks since Matthew Dunmier's death. Investigators had a lot of good reasons to move forward. The fact that she was with Matthew at the park, there's a physical proof that connects her to the scene. There's shared Airbnb reservation and data from surveillance and phone records that backs up what she said. FBI agents showed up at Chelsea Perkins's house on the day of the search. Chelsea herself opened the door and didn't put up any resistance. When she talked to the government team, she was surprised that they were there and wouldn't answer any questions without an attorney present. Police found a 9mm Springfield Armory semi-automatic pistol during the search. By law, the gun was registered in Chelsea's name. Later, tests by forensic scientists proved that this was the exact gun that was used in the shooting that killed Matthew. Investigators also took away electronics, papers, personal items, clothes, and accessories that matched what they saw in surveillance video from Cleveland and the national park. The police had a strong case thanks to the DNA evidence found on the water bottle and under the victim's fingernails. Even though there was more and more proof, Chelsea Perkins was not arrested right away. She kept living in Virginia in the months after Matthew's death. She didn't move and stayed out in public with no obvious signs of being upset. The fact that the police did nothing made Matthew's family very angry. Tommy Dooner, his mother, took it the worst. Tommy wouldn't accept that the main suspect in her son's murder was still free. It seemed to her that the legal system wasn't doing its job. Detectives and the prosecutor were sent letters and requests, but they didn't give a clear answer. She and her husband were not told when they might be arrested. Officials said that the delay was due to rules about how things should be done. Tommy's mental health was badly affected by what was going on. She stopped sleeping and stayed up all night at her computer to find out everything she could about Chelsea. She kept an eye on Chelsea's social media activity, wrote down her addresses, and looked for records of her travels along with her deep sadness over losing her son. This obsession grew over time. That loss turned into a strong will to succeed. She would go after justice herself if the government couldn't do it. In the autumn of 2021, Tommy talked her husband, John Dunmier, into going along with the plan. Together, they hired a car, made fake delivery boxes, and ordered 2 UPS uniforms online. Claiming they were a delivery service to get into private property was their plan. In Washington, D.C., Tommy was sure she knew exactly where Chelsea lived, but she was wrong. Chelsea really did reside in Arlington, Virginia. In November, the Dunmiers brought their plan to life. They took a car and drove to the place they thought Chelsea lived at. When they got there, John stayed in the car while Tommy, who was dressed as a UPS delivery person, walked up to the front door with a gift. A woman, soon after, opened the door. When she saw the delivery outfit, she didn't think anything was wrong. Then, Tommy took out a gun from under her jacket and shot the lady twice in the middle. The woman fell down near the door. Tommy knew right away that she had made a bad mistake. The victim had nothing to do with the case. She didn't know Chelsea or Matthew. The police never said what her name was, but they did report that she lived after having emergency surgery at a nearby hospital. Tommy tried to run away in fear. People in the area who heard the gunshots called the police. Within minutes, patrol units showed up. Officers saw Tommy not far from the scene of the crime as she was walking away. When she saw them coming, she pulled out the gun and shot herself in the head, killing herself. She was 57 years old. John, her husband, was caught right there. He had stayed in the nearby parked car and not tried to get away. He was later charged with trying to help someone kill someone and planning to do something illegal. John said he did what he did because his wife told him to, and that he couldn't stop her. The fallout broke the family apart completely. Matthew's son and daughter no longer had a father or a grandma. The news caused a lot of outrage, which put more pressure on the police. But Chelsea was still not in custody at that point. Tommy didn't live to see anyone get caught. Many people saw her terrible choice as a terrible result of what the family saw as an unbearable weight injustice. On December 9, 2021, 9 months after Matthew's death, Chelsea Perkins was formally arrested and taken into custody at the address she gave. Chelsea stayed cool and didn't fight back while she was being arrested. She said she wouldn't make a comment. She was charged with killing someone in the first degree. The court said no to bail because of the seriousness of the charge, the strength of the proof, and the possibility that the person would run away. After that, Chelsea was put in jail until her trial. Her lawyers asked the court to look over the conditions of her release, but the court stuck to its original ruling. The case was put to trial with the help of a thorough indictment that included witness statements, ballistics analysis, surveillance video, text message logs, confirmations of Airbnb reservations, and a full digital timeline of Chelsea's movements. The legal processes went on from 2022 to 2024. Chelsea Perkins's lawyers said she was innocent and that there wasn't enough proof against her. During this time, Chelsea said they had nothing to do with Matthew Dunmier's death. Her position didn't change until the spring of 2025. Chelsea suddenly changed her mind in May 2025, more than 4 years after Matthew's death. Up until that point, she had always denied having anything to do with the crime and refused to say she was guilty. In the end, though, she took the deal and pleaded guilty to the murder. She was given a sentence range of 27 to 31 years as part of the deal. The court decided that the time she'd already spent in pretrial detention would be added to her total term. The exact length of her time in jail would be decided later. In return, Chelsea gave a statement explaining what she did. She said that the act was done to get back at someone. In her statement in court, she said that Matthew had hurt her at a party in their hometown in 2017 and that she was the victim. She told the local cops about it, but the case didn't go anywhere because there wasn't enough proof. The charges were dropped and Matthew did not have to deal with any legal issues. Chelsea said that years later she randomly found his profile on social media and chose to get in touch with him under the guise of getting back in touch. In fact, she said that the plan to kill him and challenge him had already been made. She told him that she set up the Airbnb, asked him to meet, and did the crime while pretending to have an appointment for a tattoo. Investigators were not able to confirm what she said. An old record did show that a police report was made in the same area in 2017, but the case was closed after 3 weeks because there weren't enough grounds to bring a criminal charge. There was never any straight proof that Matthew did anything wrong. Matthew's family and friends didn't believe Chelsea's story. They were sure he wasn't capable of acting that way. Prosecutors did not officially question her story, though, because the key person involved was dead and could not defend himself. The court agreed that the guilty plea saved a long trial with the jury. The final sentence was 25 years in jail with no chance of parole until the whole term is served. It was given on September 9, 2025. Taking into account the time she has already spent in jail, this means Chelsea Perkins will stay locked up until at least 2050. After years of investigation, the ruling put an end to the case, but it left a lot of moral and legal questions open. It was never proven by outside proof what the crime was really about. The only story of what led to the act was Chelsea's statement. The public's views stayed very divided. Some saw her as someone who wanted to get back at someone who had wronged them in the past, while others saw the crime as a planned killing with no real reason. There was no solution that made everyone happy. This case shows how dark and unpredictable people can be. Let me know what you think in the comments and subscribe for more true crime content. Until next time, stay safe.